Hello there. It is a Friday afternoon here in Seoul. We are standing just outside the entrance to Seoul National University, and I have brought you out here to meet up with this guy.
Hello, my
Hey.
name is Matt. I also have a YouTube channel called Seoul to the World or Lost and Found. I have two of them. And yeah, I guess today we're exploring my favorite place in Seoul, right? So
We absolutely are. And Matt, I want to thank you for coming out here for this. But I got to ask you, why are we starting here in front of Seoul National University? You're obviously not a university student.
Right. So this was the first area I moved to when I came to Seoul.
Uh-huh.
I originally lived in a place called Osan. It's like an hour and a half south of Seoul. And yeah, basically the reason I moved here was it was the absolute cheapest housing in all of Seoul.
That's a good reason.
And I got kind of lucky because like
Right.
I'm not really a city person.
Uh-huh.
I like the nature a lot more than being like in the busy downtown and stuff.
Right.
And just by complete luck, this area is really, really peaceful. There's lots of nature. And I think like a lot of tourists don't really make it down to this part, like Gwanak that much, but it's a nice part of Seoul. So yeah.
So it's more than just a favorite place. The connection here for you is kind of sentimental, I guess, right? It's, your first neighborhood in Seoul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, while you were here, did you ever go hiking at Gwanaksan over here?
Yeah, all the time. So Gwanaksan's actually my favorite mountain to hike in Seoul
Ah.
because it's like the perfect height. It takes like 2.5 hours to get up there.
Uh-huh.
And once you get up there, there's a really cool temple. I forget the name of it. I think it's like Yeonjudae. And it's like on top of this big cliff. Have you seen it before?
I'm not sure if I have, actually.
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's like this massive cliff with like a prayer room on top of it.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like a really epic kind of environment for a temple. So a lot of the people that want their kids to get into Seoul University, they'll go up to that temple and they'll pray for them to get good Sunung test scores so they can make it into here. So
And then after they pray, they bring them to this chair?
yeah. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Like a lot of parents kind of bring their kids to sit in this chair and take a picture like right in front of this Seoul University statue or logo or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like to put some pressure into their kids when they're nice and young, right?
As if Korean kids don't have enough pressure already.
Yeah.
So where are you taking us first?
So I'm gonna take you to my favorite kind of nature area in Seoul. And it's actually just the path going up to Gwanaksan.
Uh-huh.
So before you get to the actual like hiking trail, there's just a really nice like road that you can go for a walk at. There's some nice shade and there's a little lake park with like a kind of like a pagoda type thing, a pavilion, where you can just kind of like relax in the nature despite being right in the middle of the city. So the first time I came to Gwanaksan, there was like no signs or anything. It was just kind of like a random dirt path going up there.
Right.
And then probably in like 2015, they built this really nice entrance to it. So that's where we're going right now. We got to start it with a nice epic little entrance through the kind of gate that they set up. So.
Well, you know, my earliest experiences here in this area were probably around 95. And the only thing I remember from this spot is the bus stop. Because I was working up the road there.
Yeah.
And to get the bus back to the subway station, it was a Mao bus, a local bus. It would come down this way and loop around and go back up that way. And I just remember seeing that bus stop over there with a lot of elderly people with hiking gear.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the main entrance here. And yeah, a little thing about like Seoul University too. Obviously it's the most prestigious university in Seoul, right?
Uh-huh.
I kind of expected it to be like in the middle of the city, like maybe in an area like Gangnam or something.
Right.
So the first time I saw it, I just kind of like stumbled upon it and I was like, whoa, it's in a really kind of random location, eh? Like right at the base of Gwanaksan.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that that's actually from Park Chung Hee.
Yeah.
he relocated Seoul University here in like 1975 or something like that.
Right, and that's it was located at what is Daehakno today.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
where
yeah.
Daehakno gets its name.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the Seoul National University campus was there.
Ah,
So the Seoul National University Hospital is still there.
yeah.
But what's it called? Maronier Park, whatever it is there at Daehakno.
Yeah, I don't know the area too well, actually.
Yeah, there's a park there that used to be, that is where the campus was,
Oh, okay.
where that park is.
And another thing too, like when I first moved to this area, I lived right next to Seoul National University Station.
Uh-huh.
And it's not close to the university at all, right? So I was like, where is the university? And like, so I just kind of ended up stumbling upon it on my walk because I didn't really look at the maps too much back then. Super peaceful in here though, eh?
Yeah, and this, I guess this is the, if you're with your family or if you're just interested in starting off with a leisurely walk, this is a great place to start the hike. But the reason I always start on the campus is because you just jump right onto the trail.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just very close to the bus stop. You can ride the city bus onto the campus, by the way. There is a bus from Seoul National University Station that runs through the campus.
Yeah.
And does a complete circuit of the campus.
Yeah, which is it is a really nice campus to check out as well. Like I used to walk through there and there's a lot of nice like grass hills to sit on and kind of just has more of a natural atmosphere than like a city university atmosphere, you know?
Have you ever been to the other side of Gwanaksan?
Near like the Gwanaksan side or whatever.
Yeah.
I used to teach kids like, it was almost like a nature English class.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to be there like at the base of the mountain a lot, but I never hiked up the entire thing from that side.
Yeah, I've hiked down it,
Yeah.
you know, up this side and down that side. And
Yeah.
it's really cool because there are, it's almost rural looking over there.
Yeah, it is.
And there are a few good restaurants to end off the hike, which has always kind of frustrated me about this side.
Yeah,
Because you don't have that typical type of little hiking village
that's true.
right at the base on this
To
side.
get like chon and makgeolli or something like that.
And
Yeah,
dubu and all of that.
yeah, that's true. Actually, this side doesn't have that feel at all because it's kind of just like a neighborhood, right?
Right.
So, those are like the things I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
The drawbridges and the trees. And
Wow, that was like fun.
yeah. It's good places for like families to come with their kids. And I think there's like a campsite here, but only for day camping, I'm pretty sure.
You know, that is exactly the kind of thing I would have loved as a kid.
Oh, yeah. It's things to climb around on and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's kind of crazy because I developed a fear of heights later in life, but
Oh, did you?
yeah.
Also, like one big thing that's changed here is I'm sure you probably remember like there would just be so many old people kind of in the stream with like makgeolli and their picnic mats and all that kind of stuff, like having, you know, almost full meals together.
Right.
But they changed the laws and like they don't really allow that anymore. So it does have a different atmosphere than it used
Absolutely.
to.
Yeah, I used to see that pretty much anywhere there was a stream.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have arrived at the little lake park here. So it's not a very long walk to get here, from
Right.
Gwanaksan Station. Like just having access to this in the middle of like one of the biggest mega cities is not really what you'd expect, right?
Absolutely.
It's a nice spot to come relax. Yeah, there's no way like you literally have to almost just stumble upon this place, right?
Right. Or I wonder, you know, most people when they're hiking these days at Gwanaksan, do they come this way or do they start from the campus? I mean, the campus was the primary way I heard to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody recommended that I go that way.
Koi fish in here. Oh, it's just got such a cool, like, scenic atmosphere for sure. It looks so traditionally Korean too, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Looks like it could fit on the palace grounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I love those arching bridges across.
Oh yeah. It's probably like 2 hours from this point to the peak of Gwanaksan.
Right.
You go up there, there's like the cliffs, you can have a nice lunch up there, and there's like that weird like radar.
Yeah, right. It's
sphere
a weather
thing?
station thing, isn't it?
Oh
right?
yeah, something like
I think
that.
it is. Yeah.
And the temple up there is really worth checking out on top of the cliff.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out
Yeah.
next time I do a hike here.
You'll see it like, you'll probably research, just look at the picture when you're like editing this.
Maybe I'll just call you up and bring you along.
Yeah. I'll come anytime for sure.
All right, so we've come out of the park. We're right next to Gwanaksan Station. This is on the Sillim line. It's an LRT, a light rail transit, light rapid transit,
One
whichever
of those
it is.
two.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the first one was the line from Sinwon Station to Uidong.
Oh
Like-
yeah, the like Bukhansan
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
That was the first, the Ui Shinso
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
This one opened fairly recently, just in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it was
I
like
think.
2022, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So where are we going now, Matt?
So we're going to a place called Goshichon.
Goshichon.
And Goshi is basically, it's the name of like government tests or whatever, like civil servant, law tests, or all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And basically back in the day in like the 70s and 80s when Seoul University was like relocated here, people used to gather in groups, the students, to study in this neighborhood over here.
Oh,
And they're all students, right? They don't have a lot of money. So a new type of housing started at that time, and they're called Goshiwons. So it's like the housing for people studying for the Goshi, like the tests.
uh-huh.
And then so many of them started popping up around here that this became famous as an area called Goshichon. So like the kind of town or village of Goshiwons. And even though I used to walk by here all the time, I've actually never walked through here. So it's kind of a cool place that we can check out together.
But you know what's great is even after all the years you've been here, you can still walk through one of your favorite neighborhoods and walk through a place you've never been to.
Exactly. And it's like actually somewhat famous for this area too. So I should have seen this already, but
you never would have heard of that
Yeah.
back then, right? I never heard of it until you told me. So, but I wonder, Goshiwons started around the same time. I wonder, was this where they started?
I don't know if they actually started here 100%, but this is where they became like a very common type of student housing.
Have you ever stayed in a Goshiwon?
Yeah, so my first place in Seoul was a Goshiwon near Seoul-dae-gu, like Seoul National University Station. Lived there for 4 months, and it's, for those that don't know, they're like tiny little one-room apartments. You can touch both sides of the walls with your hand. Your feet are normally under your closet, like when you're sleeping and stuff. And it's just a little room that's very, very cheap that you can study or do whatever, you know, so.
Well, what I understand about them today, the modern version,
Yeah.
is very different from how they were in the past.
Yeah.
I know I stayed in one in the mid-90s. I was working over somewhere in Songpa-gu, and my house was in Itaewon, and it was just easier to sleep there at a Goshiwon in Songpa-gu instead of getting up so early every morning to commute over there. The subway network wasn't as big then.
Yeah.
And the Goshiwons at that time were just a bed and a desk and some hooks on the wall.
Yeah.
And you had a community shower, community toilets,
Yep.
shared common room with the TV. And that Goshiwon was co-ed. You had one hall for men, one hall for
Yep.
women, but everybody shared the common room.
Yeah.
But my understanding is today, a lot of the Goshiwons, you can look online, they have their own little shower and toilet in that tiny room. They have a refrigerator.
Yeah.
They have a TV.
Yeah.
It's like a little tiny box apartment.
You can customize it, like you pay a little bit more money to get a window as a feature. So if you have a window, it's like another $50 a month.
Right.
And then a bathroom is also another big like upgrade. So some of them are still like what you said with nothing, and you just use the communal stuff, and then the nicer ones have the bathroom in the window. So
Yeah, and free ramen in the kitchen.
we just keep walking straight.
Right around this bend here, right?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Goodbye.
Where are you from?
America, Canada.
Canada. Oh, which region?
Do you know Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a permanent resident there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I live in Ottawa,
Oh, in Ottawa.
the capital region.
It's cold in the winter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have been to Vancouver
Oh, nice.
3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Cool.
Most beautiful city in the world.
I think Seoul is more beautiful.
You know, I've still never been to Canada.
Oh, really?
I got to
okay.
get there one day.
Well, have a really nice day, eh?
Thank you.
There are definitely less students living here, I heard, and it's mostly like kind of just people looking for cheaper housing, like anybody, right? So most of the students went to Noryang-jin. Yeah. So that's kind of become the new like Goshichon.
Yeah, because I don't think I've seen any Goshiwons around here.
Yeah, there are, like, if you look on neighbor maps.
Yeah, this is the Park Chul Memorial. Park Chul was the young man who was tortured to death by the Chun Ju-hwan regime. He was a student at Seoul National University.
Oh, it's actually a fairly big sized memorial.
Yeah. And you can go inside here. It's a memorial hall.
So it looks like housing, but it's not. Eh?
It's not, no. There were other buildings here a few years ago, but they tore them down and built this. I think this opened in 2023.
Oh, okay.
This looks like it would have somewhat of a nightlife here.
Yeah, anywhere where there's students, right?
Yeah, right.
There's like even like a gamebang there, like where you can play PlayStation games. There's a lot of stuff more catered to the younger crowd for
Yeah,
sure.
but it just seems so kind of, you know, most of the university neighborhoods, the student areas are
Yeah.
close to the gate. And this one is just so far off, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's probably the closest they could possibly live to
Right.
Seoul University because it's so like remote, you know? Yeah, I still don't see any Goshiwons, to be honest. Just hilarious.
Maybe Goshichon isn't Goshichon anymore. Or Goshichon?
Yeah, Goshichon.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. The Changwon Hakdang.
Ah,
One
yeah.
room Goshi.
Yep.
Yeah. It's an old one too.
Yes, you can tell
Yeah.
by the windows.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the ones with just a desk and a bed
More like the ones that you were living in back in the
then.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, this area is kind of cool because it still looks a bit like countryside-y,
Uh-huh.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't really feel like the rest of Seoul that much. And it was a really good transition for me to go from like Canada to Osan, which had a lot of nature, to here, like helped me kind of get comfortable in the city. So I'd never lived in a big city before. So.
You know, my very first, I stepped foot in Korea in Songtan. at
Oh.
Osan Air Base.
I know that area well.
Yeah, it was a mass, I don't want to say migration, it's not a migration, but we had a lot of soldiers leaving Korea at that time because it was the end of the Gulf War.
Yeah.
And they had been frozen in place for well beyond the termination of their tour of duty, right? They were supposed to be here a year. Some of them were here over 2 years. So normally I probably would have flown in on a normal commercial flight
Yeah.
to Gimpo Airport.
Yeah.
But because of the mass replacement going on,
Yeah.
we had a chartered flight full of soldiers that landed at Songtan at Osan Air Base. And the thing I remember most, it was summer, it was hot, it was June, and the smell of the rice paddies. Did you get that a lot living in Osan?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because they're everywhere around there.
Absolutely. That's like the scent of summer,
Yeah.
the manure. Oh, man.
Yeah, it gets pretty brutal. And there's tons of insects. You'll probably have to watch your head a lot here, by the way.
Somehow, even as I was telling Matt about the day I arrived in Korea, it never crossed my mind that we were shooting this video on my 35th anniversary in Korea. I first touched down on June 5th, 1991.
So, oh, nice.
Another gray heron.
Beautiful. Yeah, so this is Dorimcheon. So this was just like a poor neighborhood back in the day after the war. A lot of people would like wash their laundry in here, or they'd set up little stalls kind of on like wooden stilts back in the day. And it was like, this is one of the poorest areas in all of Seoul as well. It's been that way for a while, but around the same time they redid the Gyecheon, they redid this as well.
Yeah, because it was covered up, right?
Yeah. And now it's a beautiful walk to do in every single season. And I used to walk this literally every day. And no, I just come in here like when you're kind of in the midst of the city all the time. It's nice that Seoul has so many areas like this to just kind of be in the quiet and relax a little bit, you know? Yeah, Korea does streams very well.
Yes.
You can even see like right now, just having the walking path, the bike path, like almost every stream in the country has this setup.
Yeah, what I love about this view, man, you really, I mean, there's some apartments, newer apartments there in the distance, but those are the only ones I see right now.
Yeah, it's true. There's not many areas in Seoul where you don't have the big apartment complexes everywhere, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that because that's how I go back in time.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this view.
Yeah. We've been walking along the stream for probably like 1.5 kilometers or so, maybe 2 kilometers. And now we're getting closer to Sillim, which is another area with a bunch of Goshichons and stuff like that where a lot of students live. But yeah, I'll just take you to this market over here. It's where I used to get my groceries. And I don't know if it's still this way, but they used to they would have a lot of stuff. Like, you know, in Korea, when you buy vegetables and stuff, you have to buy like 8 tomatoes, or like here, since so many people are living alone, you'd get stuff in smaller quantities a lot easier.
Oh, okay.
Which was really, really nice back then.
Right.
We'll see if it's still the same, I guess. I think it's called like Sinwon Sijang. It's right there, the entrance.
30,000 won watermelons.
Holy smokes. Yeah, that's they're expensive right now, eh?
Yeah. Have you ever come to a market like this and thought you were buying one thing and found out you were buying something else?
Let's see. don't think that's happened to me actually, but has it happened to you?
Well, I once bought persimmons when I thought I was buying tomatoes.
That's a hilarious mix-up, actually.
I had never seen persimmons until I came to Korea.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were when my coworkers gave me some. I was just like, oh, what are these? But they ended up being pretty good, like when they're soft and you get them with a spoon. Yeah, it's one of the cheaper markets in Seoul. So they still do have you can see the tomatoes there are like separate, right? They're not like in that basket like they always make you buy.
Right.
So some of them are, but that's good to see that you still can get like just one tomato or something, because that's been one of the hardest parts about living in Korea for me when I'm cooking. When you just want like a little bit of something and you have to buy so much at once.
So do you get like that feeling like, wow, I haven't been here in a long time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like when we pop out here. This is one of the intersections I used to drink at the Pyeonijam at the convenience store all the time. And let's see if we can see it. It was right here on the right.
Still there.
But yeah,
but the tables are gone.
Yeah, the tables are gone, unfortunately. So the tables are right here. And this area had so many drunk people in general. Every single night, there would be like probably at least 5 ajashis would stop and talk. And like sometimes they'd buy us beer. It'd be me and my American friend would be drinking together normally. So like the people were always so friendly and we had a lot of very funny experiences for sure.
Well, I wonder what it looks like around here now, because I've been reading that younger people are not drinking so much these days.
Yeah, that's true. It's down like 10% or something in this year. So,
and it's been declining in the past few years, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because Korea's whole food culture relies on the drinking quite a bit.
Right.
Like there's all the places that just serve like anju or something, right? And if people stop drinking, then that affects them as well.
And ultimately, it's got to impact the work culture too, because drinking is such a big part of work culture. You know, I used to talk to guys who had hangovers in the morning, and they would tell me how they had to go drink with their client the night before. I'm like, you didn't have to. You had a choice. You could have not drank. No, I had to drink. And it is that attitude that it's, relationship building and all of that. And truth comes out when you're drinking and that kind of thing. So how does that change?
Exactly.
If the young people aren't embracing alcohol to that degree?
That's a good point, because actually my first weekend in Korea, my boss did that. He brought me to a barbecue restaurant and like just kept feeding me soju over and over again. And I got absolutely plastered. And he told me at work a couple days later, we're just going to cross here, by the way.
Okay.
He told me he likes to take the new employees out and drink together with them, because you get to find out like what type of person they are. If they're like an angry person or if they're a happy person or whatever.
Happy drunk, angry drunk.
Yeah, exactly. So that was his strategy to like kind of get a read on me, which the first time I saw that, like I laughed so hard, because that would never happen in Canada,
Right, right.
Yeah, so this is the main street of Sillim right now. And there used to be like food stalls all over the place, but I think they're disappearing over time.
Oh gosh, that's the same story all over the city.
Yeah, definitely. There was a really good actually burger, like a street food hamburger. And it was like 2,500 or 2,500 won. Really, really cheap, and like one of the best burgers I had from one of those places. But
and I'll bet you were somewhat intoxicated every time you bought them, which is why it's the best burger.
That is actually very true, because it was right next to that GS25 over there. I didn't even think about that. So, but this is like my go-to kimbap restaurant. It used to be called Pomato.
Okay.
And I think Pomato was like a franchise that changed into Labab now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't Pomato have like omurice?
Yeah,
too?
they had amazing
Yes.
omurice. Like, this was like my go-to kimbap place that just has everything. And the quality of everything was like not high, but not low, kind of
Right.
somewhere right in the middle.
I liked their omurice.
Yeah.
I used to get it by Gwanaksan Station.
Yeah.
Now and again.
Well, this is,
I didn't realize this was the same. Was it bought out or?
I actually don't know.
Something to look into. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be like on Google or Naver. You might be able to find out. But
Well, let's get on in
yeah,
there.
it's bringing back like crazy memories, actually. All right.
So unfortunately, the Labab place wouldn't let us film inside. So the best I can do is show you a photo of what we ate. That was really, really good. What was it? Chicken mayo tteokbap?
Yeah, exactly. So that was, as far as like, what would you say, price per pound? Would that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's pretty good for the price you
The
pay.
bang for
right?
the buck.
Bang for the buck, exactly. So yeah, now we're on the main strip of Sillim here. And there used to be a really good bunshik place right here
Uh-huh.
that sold, jumukbap? Like they had like so many different flavors of it and so many options, but unfortunately it closed.
And for those who don't know, bunshik is like Korean fast food.
Oh yeah, tteokbokki is part of it as well. All the fried stuff, mandu, dumplings and whatnot. So Hongdae used to be like the main nightlife area. It's kind of turning into a tourist area.
Right.
We'll take a right here. And like, not that many people, when they think of going out to have some drinks,
Uh-huh.
think of Sillim really.
Right.
But it's almost like a smaller version of what Hongdae probably used to be. Like, it's all university students. It's all really cheap bars, like Korean bars selling like anju and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And,
Anju is like bar food,
Yeah.
bar snacks.
and it's just got like really cool vibes here, you know? This is actually my favorite nightlife area in Seoul. And that's mostly because of nostalgia, to be honest, because I came here a lot. But it is, it's worth coming if you're here for a longer period of time and you want like a new place to check out. Yeah, so now we're at Sundae Town too. So
Oh,
like,
Sundae Town is here.
yeah,
Okay.
this is the main sign of it. And it's basically, there used to be a bunch of like street vendors around here that made sundaebokum, which is like sundae, the blood sausage, and then there's the japchae, like the glass noodles,
Right.
gopchang, or the pig intestines, all kind of like fried together with the perilla seeds or something.
Uh-huh.
It kind of tastes like a pesto pasta, oddly enough.
Interesting.
It's a lot better than it sounds.
Yeah.
And I was gonna take you there today if we came for dinner because it's good with like some drinks as well. But we came for lunch, so I showed you the other place. But yeah, these are the places. These two buildings right here. A lot of like, you saw this a lot back in the day when you'd like go into a restaurant or an area with many restaurants, and all of them are like fighting to get your business, right?
Yes.
So that still exists in the Sundae Town now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if you go into any of these places, you'll just get all these ajumas like trying to like lure you in. Sometimes they'll like grab your arm or something.
wow, I
and-
haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny experience. It can be a little like pressuring at the same time, but it's also very fun. This is the main intersection of Sillim, right?
Right.
And did you ever see the abandoned department store that was right there?
I did not.
Okay, so in like 2008, they were building a massive department store. They constructed it for about 3 years or something, and then the company went out of business. And it was just there, just like an abandoned building for about 13 years.
Holy
There was just like a skeleton of a building right there
Right.
until 2021, just 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So I just want to like just walk by where it is
Sure,
and see
yeah.
what they're doing.
Yeah, it's the foundation.
Still a little bit left.
No, the whole foundation is there.
Oh yeah,
So it was demolished 2021.
yeah,
So 5 years it's been sitting there with just the foundation.
yeah.
So 18 years.
Since they gave up on the project, there's
Wow.
still remains of it left. like the rest of the neighborhood's just kind of like this. Like it's all just these nice older, you know, bars, pubs, like nice casual places to go to. They're all quite reasonable in price. And I think most people coming to Seoul don't come to Gwanak-gu, like tourists and stuff.
Right.
So if anyone was like looking for an area that's probably quite a bit more local than, especially like near the palaces and stuff, this could be interesting to check out.
Right. And probably cheaper.
Yeah,
You can have a good time for less money.
definitely. If you think of where we've walked today, like we've been kind of in the mountains, we've been in some kind of older areas, like in the Goshichon and stuff like that. We've been on a nice stream. And then now we're kind of in a city nightlife area. It's all pretty traditional, but there's a lot of variety in this one area, right? So that's probably why it's one of my favorite places in Seoul, and I will always have good memories here, and I'll keep coming back as often as I can.
Well, Matt, I really appreciate you bringing me out here today. I've known about this area for a long time, but I've just spent so little time here. You know, when people email me, one of the most common questions I get is, do I have any recommendations for more local areas?
Yeah.
And this never would have crossed my mind as a place to recommend, but I think it's probably going to be the first place I think of now.
Nice, man. That's good to hear, because, it's not the right place for everybody.
Right.
But it is like the right place for certain types of people, for sure. So.
Well, thank you for coming along with us today. Be sure to go check out Seoul to the World and Lost and Found. I'm sure if you're watching my channel, you probably already know his stuff anyway. But I will see you in the next video here, and Matt, he will see you in the next video over there.
Thanks a lot for having me on your channel. It was fun filming, Mike.
I hope we get a chance to do it again real soon.
Let's do it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Peace.